We expect life to be filled with certainty, and it just isn't, as you say. And that's actually part of the adventure of life. So our perspective on that alone, it's one of our six core needs to have a balance of certainty and uncertainty in our world. But one of the tools I use is profiling people's thinking styles so that we can be very specific about where their strengths and stretches are and profiling their personality styles. So I use extended disc as a profiling tool to look at someone's personality and to determine what their natural superpowers are.
Hey, we are here with Gina Callan from ambitcoaching.com.au, and we're going to be talking today about emotional health, about mindset, about mastering your relationship, and so much more. Gina Callan is passionate about empowering women, couples, and groups to experience more joy in love, life, and leadership. And as we know, that can be easier said than done. So Gina is here to help us get through these tough times and become our best selves. So Gina, glad to be talking to you.
Oh, it's so great to be talking to you, Robert. And thank you for the opportunity for this chat.
Thank you as well. So, what is on your mind these days? What is your focus, your passion, and where do people need the most?
At the moment, I think a lot of people are living in a world with a great deal of uncertainty that they need to get up and face each and every day. We've got wars, we've got COVID, we've got all sorts of things going on. And the world we live in is very much a materially driven, ambition driven world rather than a meaning driven world. So at the moment, what I see is a lot of clients coming to me whose relationship with uncertainty is not great. And as a result, they're often feeling lonely, isolated, and as if no one's listening to what really matters to them. Their emotional health is often impacted and their conditioned responses to certainty are not responses that are really kind and that serve them well. So I'm working with a lot of people at the moment on their emotional health, their mindset, and with the aim of improving the relationships they have at home, work, and play so that they can really enjoy a fulfilling life.
And we all want that fulfilling life. And sometimes when you think about this topic of uncertainty and of stress, anxiety, you wonder, where do I even begin? Where do I even start to tackle this huge problem? So many times, like I don't even know what I should be doing. I don't know what I don't know. So like, where do you start if some patient comes to you and they say, I'm completely stressed out? There, like you said, there's wars, there's economic upheavals. What's even the starting point to make sense of this?
Yeah. So for many people, it's simply a case of needing and wanting to be heard and to have their emotions validated, their thoughts respected. And that's a great starting place. So without having someone on your side who's prepared to listen without judgment and without condition, it's really hard to move forward. So we need to work out where someone is at and to work out whether they're even able to name the emotions that they're experiencing around the uncertainty they face and how they can lean into those emotions, really learn to feel them, accept them all as being quite valid emotions to have, but to learn too that we are more than our emotions or our thoughts. We are so much more. We are all unique, magnificent individuals, and we don't have to stay with patterns of thinking, of speech, and patterns of emotion that are not serving us. We can do something about it.
And this is a topic that I think about a lot when sometimes I'm even just, I mean, afraid to even dive deep into what I'm feeling. And you talk about these things like putting it into words and like putting labels on things and having someone on our side. Sometimes I'm even afraid to even touch it. But like those times when, I'll write a little bit or I'll talk to someone else about my problems and even just getting the words out as it's happening, I'm thinking, man, my problems aren't really as huge as I've catastrophized them in my mind, right? When it's some big, scary, dark cloud, I'm afraid to even think about money or relationships or the future. It's like some big, scary beast. But then as soon as I put it in the sunlight, it's suddenly not as scary as I thought it was the whole time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Robert. And the interesting thing is when people come to me, the problem they bring is never the problem. So, as a trained NLP practitioner, coach, and hypnotherapist, my job is to listen for the patterns of thought, language, emotion behind that problem and really delve deep with someone to get to the actual root problem. So, my role's important. It involves me constantly learning, constantly keeping up with space research and really helping people dive deep. It does take a lot of courage. And I really respect that often people, just by coming along, they don't necessarily have all the courage they need initially. But when they take that first action of opening up, courage shows up. And then they're working to really improve their own lives.
As far as this whole self-improvement topic, I think that you and I are fortunate to be living in this period of time because, at least as a layperson, it feels like there's less stigma in asking for help and for seeking therapy and being vulnerable. Whereas even like a decade or two ago, even that recently, it was like it was a thing to not even tell your friends about, that you were like learning NLP or that you were like seeing relationship like marriage counselor or something like that. And so what really would help us to get an understanding of what you do and your superpower, your uniqueness, is to hear an interesting story about someone that maybe has come to you and had a problem. And you said, let's dive deep. And this thing that you think is the problem is really just a symptom. And let's dive into something that is like the root cause of this. Does something of this come to mind as far as either like a specific story with the names and details removed, obviously, or just in general, what do people come to you with? And what's the biggest problems right now people are facing?
Yeah, I was raised like many of us to believe that we need to be completely independent and able to face life head on, and we don't need a great deal of assistance and we can just work it out as we go. And so the social stigma has lifted, and yet people still need a lot of assistance, perhaps more than ever, given the times that we're living in. So people will come to me. For instance, I had a couple of ladies recently, one whose son was incarcerated, having committed some serious crimes. And as you know from the book I've written, I've been in the same situation, facing a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenge as an individual and as a family member. And so I was able to help this woman prepare her for her first visit to see her son in prison. And at the same time, delve deep and work out some of the relationship issues that had been and patterns that had been happening within the family for some time. Then we were able to work together to heal some of the emotional wounds, which had actually come from generations before and been brought into the marriage on the part of both this lady and her partner in life. And then to heal some of the relationships within the family so that everyone could move forward and really deal with what they were facing with the son being incarcerated. Rather than trying to work around it, we were able to begin working through it step by step in a way that everyone could handle. And so that was really great. It's an ongoing journey, of course, when you're facing a crisis like this. It's not that we can resolve an issue immediately. But when the woman first came to me, her immediate issue of facing the prison visit was dealt with. And some strategies implemented for her to using hypnotherapy and using some other techniques and tools that I have at my disposal. She was able to then confront each step in the process that she had to go through with a great deal more confidence and greater self esteem. There was a lot of forgiveness involved, forgiveness work and letting go of that desire to be the perfect family, the perfect parent, the perfect partner, and to accept that we all have our strengths and stretches. And in her case, she had a number of amazing abilities and strengths, but she could do more than just survive. She could thrive with the assistance of someone else, just supporting her.
And this is interesting to think about, just that you're mentioning these ideas about letting go and forgiveness. And something that blew my mind a few months ago was, I don't know what the exact percentage was, but it was something like 70% of like the relationship issues don't really get resolved, right? And it's not a matter of just lining up problems and let me fix all these other things. So as we both know, so many things in a situation or in life just need to be managed instead. Your son's in prison. There's no busting him out of prison. He's there. And so there's sometimes these harsh realities in life, a physical limitation or physical accident or economic situation. Some things are just a matter of being okay with. So that it hurts my brain a little bit to think about that. Like some things we just need to either I can change what I'm doing or just change my thinking about it. And what sort of what sort of like techniques or solutions are out there that are like a lot? You're dealing with all these people and all these problems, and there's the obvious cliches you hear about talk about your feelings or weigh the pros and cons. But what are you seeing or what are you doing that is uncommon and not talked about enough?
Oh, look, there are many tools and techniques that I use, obviously. I mean, I think for most of us, we expect life to be filled with certainty, and it just isn't, as you say. And that's actually part of the adventure of life. So our perspective on that alone, it's one of our six core needs to have a balance of certainty and uncertainty in our world. But one of the tools I use is profiling people's thinking styles so that we can be very specific about where their strengths and stretches are and profiling their personality styles. So I use extended disc as a profiling tool to look at someone's personality and to determine what their natural superpowers are. And I use a metadynamics profiling tool, which was developed by Remy Pearson, one of the greatest interventionists we have here in Australia. And she studied from all the great coaches and NLP masters. So I use those tools to help people really understand how they do think and what their personality type is. And are they using their superpowers to the extent they should be used, or are they overusing them and underutilizing other powers that they could bring into the situation that they're dealing with? So those are great baseline tools. But we also I use a wonderful model called the critical alignment model. And it helps us determine everything from our perspective on our immediate environment, our values, our standards, attitudes, behaviors. And then we can work through how we can structure the journey ahead and what kinds of resources we're going to need and that kind of thing. And I say we because it really is a collaborative effort, but my role is to empower the person to work out what they need to do and what's best for them. Coaching and hypnotherapy, it's not a one size fits all approach. And there are increasingly more and more evidence based tools or research based tools and techniques that I bring in to coaching to make sure that I'm tailoring everything for the individual or the family or the couple. I rely on tools that the Gottman Institute uses as well. And the Gottman Institute has been around for 40 years. And at the moment, I'm doing a certification as a happy for no reason coach with Marcy Shimoff in the US. I've worked with John Assaraf, Tony Robbins. So, it's not like I'm sitting here just using one framework. Every day for me is about researching what the latest statistics are, the latest problems, and the best tools to help people achieve the direction in life that they want to take. Yeah.
And so you are a lifelong learner, basically. And you would hope that you would be, right? Like when you meet a doctor, you're hoping that doctor is keeping up on the latest medical updates. You're hoping that a lawyer or an accountant every year keeps on being refreshed to get to the cutting edge. And again, you mentioned things like superpowers and using your superpower for the right reason. And you mentioned about using different tools. And it's making a lot of sense that you say that there are some tools that are universal, like the six needs, but then there's also a matter of like customization and like taking a test and figuring out where you fit on the disc profile. And then there's a matter of these new techniques that you're learning, like the happy for no reason. So it's making a lot of sense that you don't just use a hammer, you don't just use a screwdriver. You say, let me use some combination of things. And some is like the foundational knowledge, and some is based on what I'm seeing. And it would take us all like a lifetime or decades of research to get caught up on where you're at, what you've learned. And so in these last few minutes here in our conversation, I want to know about you. What sorts of struggles, what sort of mental difficulties have you personally gone through? Because it's one thing to say, I've studied and I've helped people, but sometimes it's even more interesting to hear from the expert herself. What have your struggles been?
Yeah, I'm a human being. So, like most human beings, we all face challenges at times in our life. I think just being a woman here in Australia, having been raised in the country, certainly raised with a lot of conditioned approaches to life. And then in my late teens, I began experiencing problems associated with a chronic pain condition that I've since had diagnosed. And I work with lots of people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. And often those conditions are triggered in our youth by all sorts of condition responses. I had fantastic parents who did the very best that they could with the resources they had, of course. But there were a number of traumas that I faced as a child, even witnessing a dreadful accident where a poor fellow was burned. Throughout my lifetime, though, as a service wife, my husband was in the military for 22 years and continues to be a reservist here with the Australian Armed Forces. We've done a lot of moving. So I've had to manage my condition. I was a registered nurse. I was always working, managing children, and now I have grandchildren as well. And as I mentioned before, and I wrote about in the book Beyond Limitations, we as a family had this terribly challenging situation where one of our sons in his late teens was involved with a group of young lads who were incarcerated for their crimes. And they were serious crimes. And as parents, we needed to face taking responsibility as his parent for our part in what had occurred. And we had to work our way through letting go of our need to be perfectionists, learning more about ourselves, taking action, and learning about forgiveness and self trust. Keeping so those are just a few. I'm sure if we spoke to anyone, they'd have a number of other challenges as well. But that's a brief synopsis of what it is that led me to the whole world of self development. And as a nurse, I was always interested in research and when I went on to do social science degrees, majoring in psychology and so on. So for me, it's really important that when we're meeting with clients, we are able to use credible evidence and lean on tools that we know there are statistics to prove work. So that's very much a part of what I do, as well as coming from a heart space. I work as a Bling angel and use a game called Find Your Bling, which is actually set up on the table. I just realized behind me is a game.
Fun.
And it's not woo. The cards involved, though, are great for encouraging conversations where people are struggling through fear to be open about what is going on for them. So it's just one of the many tools that I use to help people heal their hearts, minds, body, and soul.
And I'm hearing a lot from you. Like you say, here's this new, crazy, maybe slightly outside the box technique. It's something different to wake you up. It's not the same old stuff, but it is rooted in this evidence, is analytical. So I like hearing that from you, that you're good at having that blend between it's based on data, it's based on research, it's based on the facts, but it does not stop there. It's applied in these fun ways, such as this card game. So it's like you have both sides of the coin, right? There's the seriousness, but there's also the fun aspect. And so you mentioned things like you're in this Beyond Limitations book, which is at beyondlimitationsbook.com. And you are the very first chapter, number one, because you are number one. And then we also said that your website is ambitcoaching.com.au. Having put those two links out there, can you tell us, is there any other place that someone listening or watching this should go to? And what type of person should be checking you out and going to your website?
Yeah, so I would say anybody who is feeling that they're carrying an emotional burden, it could be a trauma, it could be just a current situation that they're facing. They're the sort of people who should go onto my website and download the emotionality profile tool that's there. It's completely free, and they can even book in for a 45-minute free session to have that space tool, which looks at positive and negative affect. They can book into that conversation free of charge with me. And that's a really great starting point to start working on being aware of what emotions you do have, those that you may not be aware about, and how we can address a particular situation you're facing. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, so people can always make contact with me that way, or just pick up the phone and give me a call. A lot of the work I do, even my hypnotherapy, a lot of it's done via Zoom these days, given our uncertain world. And I happily speak with people across Australia and throughout the globe on a daily basis to work on whether it be even just a simple phobia or they want to give up smoking, or you sleep better, those sorts of very encapsulated issues. I deal with those things right through to the more complex traumas and dramas that we all face as human beings.
Amazing. So if someone says that this all sounds great, I want to find out about this 45 minutes Zoom session, I want to find out about this test, where is the place to go claim those things?
Yeah, so go onto the website, and when you download the emotionality profile tool, you'll get an acknowledgement email from me, and then I will follow you up to book you in for a session if you would like to have a session with me. And we could do that in person or via. I also have programs running all the time. And currently, if people are interested in just leading a happier life, one more filled with joy, people can join me on current programs I'm running. One is ISIS for happiness, and that starts next week. So they can email me or phone me, and I can give them the details of that particular program. And each Monday, people can tune in for a midday moment of magic with me as a bling angel, where we can pull some cards together. And if there's a question, a burning question people have, I can help them gain some insight, clarity, and direction to resolving that question. So
Well,
there's a lot of different.
you're always on the move, it seems like, always innovating and always on to the next project. And is ambitcoaching.com.au the place to find these things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also a marriage celebrant as well. So in between, I get to do the joyful thing of empowering couples to create wonderful marriage ceremonies, and I facilitate those. So that's great. It's nice to be able to work with couples at their happiest time of their life, and then see them later on if they're needing a little bit of support.
It all connects. And I can tell that
Yeah.
you are passionate about changing lives and helping get people get to where they need to go. And the lesson I'm getting first from hearing your advice and everything we talked about today is that it can't hurt to just take some of these tests and figure out where you're at, where your personality is, what you need to work on, maybe what your strengths and weaknesses are. It can't hurt just to take the test. It's not like you're going to get a failing grade or anything like that. But is that the big final lesson or the final takeaway we should get from this conversation? Or is there something even better that you've thought of as far as what's like the number one lesson we should just take away from all this?
I think the number one lesson is that if you wait around for something to change and keep doing what you're doing, having the same thoughts that you had yesterday and the day before, nothing is going to change. All emotions are valid. And if something's impacting you right now, leaving you feeling sad, frustrated, angry, at a loss, overwhelmed, and so on, ask for help now. Don't wait for courage to show up. Once you take that initial step, it will show up. And, you are completely normal. We all have fears of not being loved, not being enough, not belonging or mattering. Underlying all the things that we face in life are these basic fears. And just to talk that through with someone, have them help you delve deep, that initial step can open up so many amazing possibilities for a really joy filled and fulfilling life.
I love it. Take that first step. Don't wait. Life is too short. You'll run out of time if you procrastinate on this. So the very next step to take is to go right now to ambitcoaching.com.au. That is the hub to find everything that you want to know, from following Gina on social media so that way you can see what she's up to, finding out about her wedding officiant activities, to this therapy, to getting help, and anything else you need to know. ambitcoaching.com.au, and we will see you there. And thank you, Gina, for showing up and giving us some of this helpful advice that we need. And thank you very much for providing that.
Thanks very much for having me, Robert. And to everyone out there, you deserve a happy life. So get the help now, and I'm here to support you anytime. Thank you.